why I spit Patron on this microphone. Watch out, I'm in the zone, worth for everything I own. Life is March Madness, one mistake, then you go. Yeah, I had a stroke, but your boy still rhyming. And Fresh got locked, but the squad still wildin'. Catch me in any city in the hood, we grindin'.
All right, I can see a certain group of fans about to get mad. I see it. We're about to get attacked in the comment section. But Bob Arum made comments about Terence Crawford, and basically he said that Terence Crawford is a bad investment. He said he's lost millions of dollars investing in Terence Crawford. How much? He lost so much money investing on Terence Crawford. He could have built a house in Beverly Hills. And so basically, my question is, what are your thoughts and reactions to Bob Arum making these comments about the #1 pound for pound in ESPN's ranking? No other ranking, but ESPN's ranking. What's your thoughts about that? I'm going to start this one off with G.
Man, listen, Bob Arum, you's a certified scumbag. Like disgusting, like a piece of crap on somebody's shoe. That's how I honestly feel about that situation. Reason why, and I hope no other fighters sign to this man, and I hope the current fighters that he has, once your contract is up, go somewhere else. Because if he could do that to TC, best believe he could do that to any of y'all, you know? And so, to me, this is what I felt what he was doing. He probably knew TC's about to jump ship, and TC's probably going to try to negotiate like some type of contract with PBC. So Bob was like, yeah, let me hate on that real quick. So I'm going to say, I ain't make no money off of you. I'm going broke. I could have, with the money I lost, I could have used that money and bought a nice house in Beverly Hills or whatever he was saying. He's doing all of that for a reason. So when TC tries to negotiate something, then Al Heyman or whoever else, let's say Eddie Hearn, Al Heyman, they can be like, but you didn't really, make any money for Top Rank. So this is what we're going to offer you, as opposed to saying like, offer you like top dollar, And to me, that was just a hater move on Bob Arum's side. And that's what I didn't like, And so if he could do that to TC, a person that he was gassing, like, remember, it's the same guy who's like, he'll beat Spence and Garcia on the same night, this and the third. Let's make the big fights happen. He said all of this. Now, all of a sudden, it went from let's make the big fights happen to, I was going broke with this man. And it's just like, yo, come on, bro. Like, don't do that to somebody's career. But again, you would do that if you're a scumbag. So
that was the fastest transformation from friend to foe since you were a little kid fighting with your cousin. You fought your cousin, and then 2 minutes later, y'all hugged up with best friends.
That's all I'm saying.
Like, yo, that was the biggest switch I've seen.
I'm shocked. Yo, TC, listen here. The dude pretty much said, yo, you one of his correct. I don't want to be disrespectful, but he pretty much called you a hoe on the strip that ain't making no money. That's pretty much what he said. Like, yo, you supposed to be my dime piece out here on the block, and you coming back with pennies. You know what I mean? So just think about that, man. So if I were you, you better never, ever in your life re-sign with Top Rank. I think they say he had like 2 more fights left. After those 2 fights, bro, disappeared, man.
He doesn't necessarily. I don't think he has fights left. I thought the contract was over in October.
And it disappeared, bro. Just
October
fade away.
2021.
Fade away, man. Listen, I would say go to PBC because obviously they got all the welterweights. But shoot, if the zone give you the bag, go to the zone and just, I don't know, beg PBC to come over to the zone. I don't know. You know what I mean? But don't stay at Top Rank unless you want to be Bob's, side piece. Not even side piece. You want to be, his worker. I'll say that.
Dollar Bill.
I'm on the fence. I think Bob was out of line with him putting TC out there as far as the whole I lost fights on you, this and putting it out in public like that. But Bob, in business, let's talk business. Let's take personal out of here. Let's talk business. Bob is not in the business to lose money neither. Bob promoted him to be this fearsome guy and put him in these positions to build his name up. Now he's looking at it like he wants some type of return. He was advocating. He's saying, he was like, my guy can beat these guys in one night. All these people you see, he can beat them in one night. Let's make the fight happen. Let's make the Spence fight happen right now. Bob was like, let's do it. I'm that confident in my guy. TC said, no. I want the other guy. Bob was like, hold on. This ain't what we can make a big mega fight here. With you fighting and getting the respect you deserve by fighting a guy that's a big welterweight, not one of these little welterweights. Nobody can ever screw up on your name. Nobody can ever dish your name no more. I'm putting you in there with Spence. Let's make that fight happen. That's the next fight right there. That's the fight everybody want to see. So it can help your name. So we can put you in there with somebody so we can shut up all the critics, all the doubters that said that our ESPN ranking was crap. Listen, like we done said it here on Boxing Bros, Bob only got a few summers left. He want to see the big fights. He want to get some return on his investment. They're not in the business of losing money. Gee, you're a businessman. Are you going to keep putting on shows where you're losing money? And then eventually you're going to say, hey, you're my promoter. And we're putting on shows. And I say, hey, I just want to perform in the Berry. You like, bro, no, I'm losing money. No, I'm like, no. I'm like, yo, next one, we going out of state. We going New York. We about to get 30 grand. Oh, and I say, no, I'm cool with this 500 that we getting in the Berry. You're going to be like, no, Trill, you're losing your mind. I'm losing money here. The venue is more than 5. You know what I'm saying? The venue is more.
But would you rock with me if I go public and make those statements?
I would definitely wouldn't. I'm with you on that, G. I thought it was classless and tasteless of Bob to do that. You know what I'm saying? But I do understand how he feels on the back end. You know? Like, you promoted these guys in these fights, paid them handsomely from what the comment section says, because everybody in the comments, they know TC's tax returns. They got his tax returns.
Well, they knew, no, on the live, they knew he was making $5 million a fight. Then they went down to he's making $3 million a fight. So obviously they didn't know as much as they thought.
And then you seeing it, like, now let's just say if y'all was right. Bob is losing. You know what I'm saying? Bob is losing. You know what I'm saying? If he was really paying that guy, I'm listening to y'all. If Bob was really paying this guy that money, come on, man. You can't get mad at Bob. Bob eventually got to, you know, he got to break even somewhere. And he's sick and tired of people talking mess. He's sick and tired of people saying you ain't fight nobody. He tried to put you in a position to make a bag and for you to be heralded as the #1 welterweight in the sport. And you turned that down. So I understand where Bob is coming from. I just think he went about it in the wrong way. That's just me.
Well, how about this? Let me just challenge you, Trill, for 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
What if, hypothetically, I don't know they bags, right? I don't know how much anybody's making this and a third, but I remember when they asked Spence about the situation between Bob Arum and TC, he's like, well, I don't know about all of that. I don't have a boss, right? Mm-hmm. So then now, seeing the benefits of Canelo doing his own thing, away from DAZN and everything, away from Golden Boy, what if TC's trying to do the same thing? You know what I mean? Well, so now Bob sees that, like, Bob's like, yo, what? You trying to leave here? What? Nah.
Now that makes TC disloyal. Now you got somebody who's been providing you all this money for fighting nobodies, building up your legacy, not fighting nobodies, excuse me, building up your profile, you know what I'm saying? And now you want to jump ship? That makes TC look a certain way. You know what I'm saying? Like
oh, that's a good point, Trill. That's a good point.
Yeah, like he's been taking losses since 2016, so you can become the guy who people think is this dude who's indestructible. And now that you're about to make the fights that profit, you want to go out on your own.
Yeah, that is kind of sleazy. Now, y'all got that. Y'all got that. All right. I stand corrected. Bob's still a scumbag, though.
Yeah. I think he was a scumbag for putting his business out there. You know what I'm saying? This is how you do things. But I understand. You know what I'm saying? I understand. You know what I mean?
All right, Ned.
Yeah, I agree with Trails right there. Like on that night, we all said it. Like when they were asking Bob Arum and TC questions, they were the chemistry or they were both not on the same page that night. Bob was like, he's gonna fight. He could fight any PBC. He could fight Danny Spence the same night and beat them both. And then TC goes, nah, I'm looking for a fight with Pacquiao. And you know, it's just like when Aaron was saying his things, you saw Danny, you saw TC was looking at him a little off-putting, and then when TC was saying his things, Aaron looked at him a little off-putting. So maybe off cameras, they just had a lot of disagreements and a lot of maybe words were exchanged. I'm just speculating. I'm not confirming anything. And Bob Arum was like, if this is how he's gonna leave me, he's gonna leave me. He's gonna leave me shattered and shambled. You know, so. I guess Bob Arum's a little scorned and hurt, but you know, it's business. That's it. That's all it is.
I dig that part. It is business. he said, I done seen you do other bosses greasies for years.
Yo, the moment Bob releases like the tax returns or something on TC, that's when I'm like, yo, no fighter better sign to Bob, bro. That's gonna be greasy, you know.
I don't know why everybody's so surprised. When Complex was on this show bigging up Bob Arum, and I told everyone how Bob Arum was sleazy, right? And there were still some people making legitimate arguments for Bob Arum. Bob Arum has a history of doing this. If there's one thing TC should be proud of, is he is in the same position as some of the greatest fighters that ever laced up a pair of gloves in this sport. From Oscar De La Hoya, Floyd Mayweather, right? Miguel Cotto, they were all in that same position. And what I just named to you were the top 3 pay-per-view stars of their era. Floyd Mayweather, number 1. Manny Pacquiao, number 2. Miguel Cotto, number 3. So he's in the same position as all of those guys. So if he makes the right decisions, maybe he'll be one of those guys we're talking about who Bob, did wrong, and then they went on to make all this money. But there's one thing I will say about Bob that's positive. Bob is good at getting his fighters the number 1 pound-for-pound slot. He has those connections. Went from Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez to Vasily Lomachenko to now Terence Crawford. It's easy for him to get his fighters the number 1 pound-for-pound spot on ESPN because they work exclusively with Top Rank. ESPN works exclusively with Top Rank. So if you don't know, Friday night fights used to be abysmal on ESPN. They used to have some terrible fights. Bob Arum at first was exclusively working with HBO. But then HBO went out of business. Bob needed to find a new dance partner. ESPN was putting on terrible fights anyway, so they were like, we might as well take on Bob Arum and his stable because then we'll get better fights. So it was a match made in heaven. So now that ESPN works exclusively with Top Rank, they're always going to rank a Bob Arum fighter at number 1. Chocolatito Gonzalez, Vasily Lomachenko, and now it's Terence Crawford. So Bob Arum is basically the one who said make Terence Crawford number 1 pound-for-pound. So ESPN ranks Terence Crawford number 1 pound-for-pound. It's important that when you run around calling Terence Crawford the number 1 pound-for-pound, you understand that no other source rates Terence Crawford as number 1 pound-for-pound. Not Ring Magazine, not Box Rec. No other source that is credited and that has respectable pound-for-pound list ranks Terence Crawford as number 1. Only ESPN, and that's because of Bob Arum. Bob Arum, they call him the star maker. He made Oscar De La Hoya a star. He made Floyd Mayweather a star. He made Miguel Cotto a star. And then they went on to profit later on. So regardless of what you think of Bob Arum, he has a lot of you believing that TC's better than Marvelous Marvin Hagler. He has a lot of you thinking TC could compete with Sugar Ray Leonard. He has Timothy Bradley thinking that that Terence Crawford could beat a prime Floyd Money Mayweather. So he's done enough to build the hype in Terence Crawford's ability. There are a number of people running around in comment sections saying that Terence Crawford can beat anyone in the 147-pound division, although he hasn't fought a credible opponent yet. And that's all due to Bob Arum and his promotional team. So when you sit there and say that Bob Arum isn't promoting, but at the same time, you'll say that Kell Brook was the best Kell Brook he ever was when he fought Terence Crawford, you, my friend, are proof that Bob Arum has been doing his job all along. So don't criticize Bob. He's done a hell of a job making people believe that Terence Crawford is the best fighter in the welterweight division. Salute to Bob on that. But Bob has made some mistakes with Terence Crawford. The mistakes he made with Terence Crawford is he put him on pay-per-view when he fought Victor Postal. And that pay-per-view only sold 50 to 60 buys, 60,000 pay-per-view buys, right? So that means at best 60,000 people saw a TC fight Victor Postal, which was one of his best fights and one of his best opponents. So TC facing arguably one of the best opponents on his resume that you point out, only 60,000 people watched that fight. To put that in perspective, we have a video on Boxing Bros, several that have more than 60,000 views. So this is what I'm talking about. And there's money that goes into that. There's promotion that goes into that. And in that fight, only 60,000 people watched. A month before that, Earl Spence fought Leonard Bundu on regular TV, and 6.3 million people watched that fight. So look at the discrepancy in the number of people who had exposure to Earl Spence and the number of people who had exposure to Terence Crawford. I'm telling you, I guarantee you more people followed Earl Spence on Twitter, Instagram during that time than they saw Terence Crawford fight on pay-per-view. I guarantee you, just off that 6.3 people having exposure to Earl Spence, he gained over 60,000 followers alone that night. Danny Garcia in March 2017 fought Keith one-time Thurman, two undefeated welterweight champions fighting. I think they said it was for like the first time in years that that's happened. I can't remember. But the bottom line is that fight peaked at 5.1 million. Again, more people, more than 60,000 people probably followed Danny Garcia and Keith Thurman that night. Then he went on to fight Amir Khan on pay-per-view. The same day Danny Garcia fought Adrian Granados. 1.4 million watched Danny fight Adrian Granados, and 150,000 watched Terence Crawford. If Bob Arum made any mistake, it was putting Terence Crawford on pay-per-view too early and not putting him on free TV, network television, so he can get the exposure. So Bob Arum concedes that mistake now in 2020, so he fights Kell Brook on ESPN. And 2 million people saw him fight Kell Brook on ESPN. But because he put Terence Crawford on pay-per-view too soon, he had to fight on regular TV when he's the so-called #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Meanwhile, Earl Spence is on his third consecutive pay-per-view, putting up solid numbers. And this is the best fight that Earl Spence has had since he's been on pay-per-view. And I'm just going to go out on a limb and say it because I saw Danny Garcia in a picture when he was flexing like this. He's getting the best Danny Garcia there ever was. Earl Spence about to fight the best Danny Garcia ever because I saw him flexing in the picture and he looked good. So, let me also break something down to you guys. And this is it. TC has played his part in why he's not a star. Before you go at Bob Arum and say, oh, he shouldn't have thrown stones at TC publicly, understand TC threw the first stone publicly. Look it up. TC and his lawyer wrote a letter to Top Rank expressing their displeasure with how Bob Arum was promoting Terence Crawford and said his lack of a marquee opponent was one of the reasons why they were frustrated with Bob Arum, right? They said that. And they sent the letter to Top Rank. But not only did they send the letter to Top Rank, they told Mike Carpenter wrote a letter in The Athletic. And if you listen to the telecast before the Kell Brook fight, they brought up how TC wrote the letter expressing his displeasure with Bob Arum and how he's being promoted. So then people start asking Bob Arum questions about why he's not promoting TC the right way and why TC hasn't had a marquee opponent. And in response to those questions, Bob Arum said about TC, he's got to promote. I put him in positions where he can get the public on his side, but he doesn't take advantage of those situations like Teofimo Lopez, like Shakur Stevenson, like Manny Pacquiao, like Floyd Mayweather. Part of it is his fault. And then everyone goes, oh, well, he's crapping on TC. Remember, TC threw the first stone, cuz. And you know what they say about throwing stones. If you don't know, I'll tell you. You shouldn't throw stones when you live in a glass house. TC lives in a glass house, but he's throwing stones. He's throwing stones at Spence, throwing stones at Bob Arum. And what happens when you throw stones at people? They throw them back. They throw them back. So I'm not upset with Bob Arum coming out and exposing this because TC threw the first stone. Did Bob Arum make mistakes in terms of promoting? Yes. But did he do a great job in terms of promoting? Yes, because you think TC's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Shows he did a good job. Now, I'll say this, and I'm going to end with this. All of this could have been avoided because 3 years ago, TC had the chance to sign with PBC, and he chose not to. He chose to re-up with Bob. No one put a gun to his head and said, yo, re-sign with that dude. Everything I told you about his history with Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Mikey Garcia, Miguel Cotto was out there before he chose to re-up with Bob. He chose to re-up with Bob, and there's another saying, you reap what you sow.
Let us know how you feel in the comment section. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter. Also, check out our podcast on all major streaming services. We are the Boxing Bros.
We could have been flawless, fly enough to make people's mouths drop jawless. How can 2 years be erased in 1 August? And you know I have my pride, so I had to get brolic. All in all, I can't call it. Just know you're my queen. Wish I was denim, cause then I be in your jeans. Can't fight fate, and you been loving me since your teens. But when you can't move forward, you gotta wipe your slate clean.